Hello, in today's video I'm going to show you 3 different types of traps that were used by Native Americans prior to European contact. These are primitive traps that you would need no European goods or tools to make, completely things that you can find from off the land that natives would have had prior to Europeans. The first one I'm going to show you today is a simple deadfall trap. This could be used depending on size. It was mostly used for small animals like mice, chipmunks, squirrels, but it could also be used on a larger scale in certain circumstances. But this is a very common trap that was used by Native Americans across the country, especially out west by tribes such as the Hopi. All you need is a large stone, and you take a stick, and you can either attach it with some sort of primitive cordage such as rawhide or sinew, or you can just notch it in there and you sharpen one end of the stick, and that's where you would stick on a little piece of bait. You just prop it up on the stone. You gotta be careful about it because you want it to be as fragile as possible and easily knocked over, but you also need it to stay where it's safe. And then all an animal would have to do is they would come along, they'd come to where you would attach the bait onto the sharpened part of the third stick, give it a little nudge, the stone would drop down, crushing the animal. Again, this would be something for smaller animals like mice, a chipmunk, even a squirrel or a rabbit, depending how large of a stone you use. But it was a simple trap that's been around for centuries and was used by many, many Native Americans. The second trap that I'm going to show you is probably one of the most common traps in history, the simple snare. Now this trap requires some sort of cordage, whether that be vine, rawhide, or sinew, in this case sinew, which if you're not familiar, sinew is a tendon that runs along the spinal cord of most animals such as deer. But this trap requires some simple cordage like sinew and the ability to find any sort of branch that you can bend over that is flexible enough to bend without snapping, I should say. Bend over, attach to the ground, and then you make your simple noose, for lack of a better word. You just tie one end and make the circular part where it can slide up and cinch as like a noose. You don't actually have to be able to tie a nooseman's knot, but that would help. Actually, no, you wouldn't need to. But anyway, you would find a trail. This is reliant on an animal's path of travel prior to you setting your trap. This is not a trap that you would in most cases bait. You can either set this up right outside of a squirrel's den or outside of a fox's den or something like that, or you can find a game trail that you can clearly see animals have already been using, and what you would want to do is set it up along there, and all the animal does is an animal will travel the path of least resistance, which will be right through the hole of your noose, and when an animal comes up through, touches it loose, the tree swings up, essentially choking the animal to death. Now this form, because the tighter they pull, the more the animal is cinched, the more it chokes around their neck. And this can be used, basically, the bigger the scale, the bigger the animal. The bigger the tree you want to use for the bigger target animal you're using. You're doing something small like a squirrel or a chipmunk, a little setup like this will work. Something larger for like a fox, raccoon, you'd obviously want a little bit larger of a branch than this little simple one, but it's an easy trap that you can use multiple times and just continue resetting. And this was used by Native Americans across the country. This was a very common primitive trap among all cultures, really. Hello, the final trap I'm going to show you is a fish trap. Now this trap was common among Native American tribes across the U.S., especially among the Cherokee, for fishing, and it's a simple trap. All you need to do is have some primitive cordage like sinew or rawhide again, and you take 3 or 4 branches and you form like a teepee formation, tying them at the top, and as you work your way down, you will be weaving in either cattails or smaller branches down to the bottom, and at the bottom where you'd have the largest circle base, you keep open. and it works the same way as a minnow trap. The fish swim into it, they get caught, they can't figure their way back out, and they can't find their way back out as it funnels downwards into the point. As you see here, I have a crude example of one. The fish swims up into it, and then it doesn't find its way back out. And all you have to do with one of these is you just attach some cordage so that you don't lose it. Toss it into the water. Tie it to a secure base. Let it sink down. And leave it there for a day or so. Come back, pull it out, and see if you caught anything. And then these traps could also be made just as any other in larger or smaller sizes, depending what the target fish was. A little one like that might be for minnows, small crappie, something small, but you can make them as large as the imagination lets you. These were just 3 simple traps that were used among Native American tribes throughout the U.S. Trapping was common among tribes long before Europeans showed up here and put trapping into overdrive with the need for pelts to supply the fur trade. Now, before the European contact, most tribes used trapping more as a form of gathering food. It was on a smaller scale. It was something common that women or young children might do while the men were out hunting large game to sustain the entire tribe. But it definitely has a heart and roots in native culture long before the occurrence of Europeans, and I just wanted to show you some quick primitive traps that they would have used. Now, one little disclaimer I want to shout out is, even though trapping's been around for centuries in the Americas, please, if you are going to attempt to use any of these primitive traps to catch your own game, look into your local state or province wildlife commissions and see what the laws regarding that are, because you can get into some trouble. All the traps I showed you today, they were strictly for educational purposes and examples. None of them were set, none of them are staying set. So, have a good day, and hopefully you guys learned something. If you like this video, please hit that like and subscribe button. It encourages me to make more videos. I'm sorry for the gap in the videos I've had lately. My goal this summer is to put out at least 3 new videos. I have some good things in the works. I hope you guys like them. Have a good day. Be safe.